The Great Pyramid itself is totally, utterly unique, extraordinary, and special. I have a long relationship with the Great Pyramid.
I saw this unbelievable story of you going to the top. I tried to get to, I got like a quarter of the way up by myself, and I was there with my wife, and I was like, I'm not trying to get arrested and have her just be alone in Egypt. And so I pushed out and I went back down.
Probably a wise decision, because you could have spent some year or two in jail.
Wow. Really?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Wow. Did you get locked up when you went up top?
No, the illegal climbs that we did, the first illegal climb involved 4 o'clock in the morning and a lot of bribery. And
how much was it back in the day to get to the top?
This was like 1996. Might even have been earlier. It might have been 1994. And we had a local guy who made contact with all the guards around the pyramid. We paid him money. I forget the exact amount. He said he'd paid them off. But then when we got to the base of the pyramid, we had to walk all the way around it, which is a considerable distance, 750 feet along each side. We had to walk all the way around it, and then we had to add more money to each of the guards at the 4 corners. And then we went up, and my advice to anybody who's climbing the Great Pyramid, which is pretty much impossible these days, either legally or illegally, is go up the southwest corner, because the southwest corner is pretty intact. It's pretty much a straight line. You can follow it all the way to the.
What is the entrance on?
North side.
That's north.
Yeah.
So south.
The opposite side, and the southwest,
yeah.
Which is the opposite side to the Great Sphinx, and
then nobody's looking at you.
Well, it's good for that.
Muslims are all facing east
to
pray.
But
so
then
you got
after
the
we were a few courses up, and another guard turned up with a shotgun. I don't think he would have reached us from that distance, but there were threats, and we had to promise to pay him more money.
So he points the shotgun.
Yeah, kind of.
He's threatening you.
Yeah,
you guys go, we'll pay you, and he's like, okay, well now you can.
Basically, we did a deal that we'd pay him when we came down. And
did you?
Yeah, we did. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. It's good to keep your promises.
That's
and then we climbed.
Do you remember how much you paid?
I actually don't. But back in the day, I guess it was probably 1994. It would have seemed a lot to me at that time, but it also seemed worth it. It was a fantastic adventure, starting in the dark, or just the beginning of dawn light, and climbing up to the top, taking shelter at various points behind bits as other guards appeared, finally getting to the top, and then the light coming up and just this majestic view.
So sunrise on the top.
Sunrise on top of the Great Pyramid, and the second pyramid, to your south. It's just an amazing thing to see, and it was an amazing experience. I would regard it as one of the peak experiences of my life.
Wow.
I did have one other illegal climb, which was just fortunate. It was following the holiday of Ramadan. They have a thing called the Eid, which is a celebration, and I would guess there were 30,000 Cairenes on the Giza Plateau having picnics, and they just decided they were going to climb the Great Pyramid. Not all 30,000, but several hundred of them, and we just joined them, me and Santha, and we climbed with them, and that actually is one of the moments when I realized how difficult the Great Pyramid must have been to build. Because the biggest danger climbing up there with several hundred people on the pyramid was other people coming up and down.
So imagine managing that with all the blocks.
With all the blocks and supposedly a huge workforce and ramps or whatever the Egyptologists imagined was done, and I don't believe anybody knows how it was done.
Yeah.
For me, that was the biggest risk, was people bumping into you, going around you as you're climbing up. But again, we got to the top, and then I had 3 legal climbs in those days when those were allowed, doing various filming projects back in the early 90s.
When do you see your last name inscribed in the block? I think this is an incredible story.
Yes, it is. I think it was on the second or third climb. I'm not absolutely sure. I think it may have been one of the legal climbs, because it was daylight and we were relaxed, as we were not when there were hundreds of other people up there with us. So I think it may have been one of the legal climbs. And there I did see, and it's on the south side of the Great Pyramid, the southeast side, overlooking the boat museum, which used to be there. And there was the name. Initial P and Hancock. And at that time, there was a date beside it. And that date, if I recall correctly, was the 5th of April, 1916. Oddly enough,
1916.
Yeah. Now my granddad was a chaplain with British forces in Egypt in the First World War. So I had to consider the possibility that it could be him. He was called Philip Hancock.
Oh, wow.
But I couldn't absolutely guarantee that. And I was able to confirm it by finding my grandfather's diaries, which were little diaries about that high, tiny little writing in them. And on that date, there was a single line which said, "Climb Great Pyramid today."
Wow.
And then I found...
And it was dated 1916?
Yeah. And then I found his biography, which was passed down to me by my dad. And he also talks about his climb of the Great Pyramid in that, although in very spare terms, doesn't say that much about it.
I know it's not that much that he put in there, but did he say there was any security? Was
at
this
that time,
free
no.
range? Sand is covering
free,
the bottom of it?
Totally free range. And I think the sand was definitely cleared away at that time. But anybody could climb the Great Pyramid. And there was, in fact, the guy who organized our first illegal climb, and I think I can say this safely because he's passed on to the next world, was a guy known locally as Champion. And he was called Champion because he was the champion runner up the Great Pyramid. He could run all the way to the top of the Great Pyramid. There were times people did that, and it was totally legal, and nobody objected to it at all. And that went on, I think, certainly through the sort of 70s and 80s. But by the time my wife Santha and I climbed 1994 for the first time, I'm pretty sure it was 94. It had become illegal, and now it's totally illegal. It's completely banned.
Yeah.
And I doubt even if a film crew would get permission to climb the Great Pyramid now.
Even like that.
Yeah. They're very careful about it. And one of the reasons why they're careful about it is that every year at least one person dies trying to climb the Great Pyramid. People still try to climb it illegally. And as you can imagine from the bit of the climb you did, you're looking at a 52-degree slope.
Yeah.
So once you get up 100, 150 feet above the ground, if you lose it and fall,
it's over.
You're going to go all the way to the bottom.
Yeah.
And it's over, yeah.
In the beginning, you have a lot of confidence. The first few tiers of rocks seem pretty easy.
They're not too bad.
But I can imagine you're halfway up and you start looking down, and it is over if you slip.
Totally over. And also, the course sizes vary. Some of them are really no more than sort of hip high. Some of the courses are chest high, so you've got to...
Courses are the blocks.
It's laid out in layers. So, it looks like a step pyramid now. It wasn't before.
Yeah.
In ancient times, it was covered with facing stones.
And you can see some of the facing stones.
Some of the facing stones are still there down at the bottom of the Great Pyramid. And they give you a sense of how beautiful they were and how magnificently well it was made. But the theory is, there's no absolute proof of this, that they came off during an earthquake in, I believe, 1301. And at that time, it's likely that that's when the Great Pyramid lost its summit. Great Pyramid stands at the moment about 450, maybe 455 feet tall, but its original height was 481 feet tall. And you can calculate that from just pursuing the slope of the sides up to the
30 feet came off in that earthquake?
Yeah, so there's a flat platform, or rather even a stepped platform on top of the Great Pyramid with one level and then one level, another level. But the calculation is very simple. You just pursue those side lengths up to where they would meet. And according to that calculation, the Great Pyramid was originally 481 feet tall.
Wow.
So it lost about 30 feet. The question is, was it in fact ever completed? We don't know that for sure.
Right.
But the general view is that earthquake brought part of the top of the Great Pyramid tumbling down as well and knocked off the facing stones. And then, of course, it was used as a quarry by local people.
That's what I heard, yeah.
Because it's very, very, very useful to have all this nice cut stone lying around. And a lot of those facing stones were taken away.
Okay, so after inspiring probably tens of thousands of people to go to the pyramids like myself, you managed to get banned from Egypt?
Yes.
Is it a real full-time band?
This is not clear to me. We
got to sneak in, Graham.
in my
we got to do one more time.
There's a champion junior that you can bribe.
Dude, we need a carved G Hancock right next to Pete Hancock.
I think this would be good. It's very difficult to do that with a film crew, however.
That's a very good
and this
point.
This is when it happened. Is that my Netflix series Ancient Apocalypse? We wanted to film an episode in Egypt, which you would have thought the Egyptian authorities would welcome, but when they asked who is presenting the show, and we said that Graham Hancock is presenting the show,
they said no.
They said absolutely no way, and they would not grant filming permission.
Let me tell you something. The Four Seasons in Cairo wants you to do an episode about the pyramids. I promise you.
Yeah, it would bring a lot of interest and a lot of people, but there's a rigid, fixed view amongst Egyptologists about the prehistory and the history of ancient Egypt and what the Great Pyramid is. Questioning that gets you banned.
Yes.
That's the first line of defense against a critic or an alternative point of view.
Yes.
Is simply to deny them access to the site. And I felt since that happened that I've had my left arm cut off, because Egypt has been very central and very important to my work. I hope eventually I will get back in. Could I go as a tourist? Maybe.
Right.